How's it going, guys? Randall aka Shizukatz here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel to bring you our tips video for HoloLive Vol.2. The tips we outlined in the first video are definitely still relevant, so if you haven't already, please go give that video a watch as well. Link for that will be in the description. There are significantly more HoloLive members in Volume 2 compared to Volume 1, with the additions of JP Gen 6 aka holoX, EN Myth and Council, and ID Gens 1 and 2, for a massive total of 51 members. With one tip for each of those members, we have a total of 51 tips for you guys today. It's going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Just like in our first tips video, we'll be going generation by generation, starting with Gen 0. The new Suisei level 3 is a unique card that allows you to rearrange the opponent's board as one of the options for her climax combo. She can also be brought out at level 2 through the effect of the level 0 Suisei, allowing you to disrupt the opponent's board during the mid game instead of just the late game. However, when you're doing this, you want to be wary of anti-change counters, so when using her effect to rearrange the opponent's board, you might want to consider putting your opponent's third most valuable character across from Suisei rather than their first or second most valuable in order to play around those counters. For Miko, we'll be looking at this new level 1, which has both on play and on death pay to salvage. This makes her a very flexible card, giving you many opportunities to gain additional card advantage. That being said, this also gives you more opportunities to pay out stock. When using this Miko in a standby deck, you'll want to attack with this Miko first, so that you can pay out standby climaxes if you trigger one and play over her with a new character. Roboko's new 2-1 has a unique effect. By resting herself, you can give one of your characters the ability to top deck the battle opponent when they reverse them. Use this alongside the level 3 Miko Reverser to guarantee removal on one of your opponent's high level characters, since Miko will always be able to reverse her opponent with her ability as long as they're not level 4 or higher. The new Sora level 0 has a powerful utility effect that lets you grab any card from Clock and replace it with a card in hand. Typically, Clock selection is very limited, only having a choice of up to 6 cards. However, you can combine this with abilities that clock from the waiting room as part of their cost in order to get a pseudo-salvage ability. Asuki's new level 0 combo is a very powerful addition to Hololive's arsenal, being able to get a guaranteed search for a character from your deck, while simultaneously standbying out a powerful high-level character from your waiting room. If you want to try utilizing her with other Gen 0 characters, try using this in a deck with the Sora level 3. Bring out the level 2 assist with the standby, and then use the Asuki combo to search for the level 3 Sora so that you have it ready for next turn to use with Sora's change effect. Matsuri's new drop search is a 3k level 1 while you have 2 or less stock. While it has stiff competition in the form of the Miko trial deck drop search, Matsuri does have a bit of a unique interaction. Use it with her own Brainstorm from set 1, since she becomes a level 1 character when her condition is met, making her an eligible target for Matsuri's 1500 buff. Hachama's level 0 has a Time Machine effect, which allows her to remove herself from the stage until your next turn upon reversing a battle opponent. Normally, this is just done to get a +1 in card advantage, but this ability also has a nice interaction with runner or chaser effects. Since Hato leaves the stage, she frees up board slots for your runners to move around and avoid being reversed, or even get in the way of your opponent's smaller characters. The new level 1 Aki gains on reverse pay 1 salvage when you use an act ability. The perfect cards to use this with are character backups, since they're also act abilities. Use a counter to protect Aki, and then use her effect to salvage back that backup and use it again afterwards to protect other characters you have on stage. Mel's best synergies as of set 2 are basically all with herself, thanks to new Mel cards like her advantage generating level 0, as well as the new level 2 support. You can have a board full of Mels with old cards like the level 1 stock generator and the level 2 combo. You can even round out this lineup with the Mel counter from the trial deck in your hand to protect your board and simultaneously proc their on-act abilities for even more bonus power. Moving on to Gen 2, Aqua's new level 1 is one of my favorite cards from the set, giving you the ability to pay climaxes out of your stock as you trigger them and replace them with a card from the top of your deck. She can also filter a card out of your hand with the second half of the effect, which lets you draw a card and discard a card. But remember, this part of the effect is entirely optional. If you don't want to affect the number of cards in your deck, or you just don't want to risk drawing more climaxes, then you don't have to use this half of the effect at all. Subaru's new level 1 climax combo lets her bounce back to your hand when she gets front attacked. Because of this, you're incentivized to try to use this combo over and over again using the Subarus that you kept. Use her with climax swappers such as the new Subaru level 0, as well as Pants climax top ends such as Aqua or Suisei to make sure that you always have the Subaru climax in your hand to loop the combo turn after turn. One of Choco's new cards involves the new level swap strategy being promoted in this set. Once per turn, when a card enters your level zone, you can pay 1 stock to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and grab a Gen 2 character from among them to add to hand. Try using her alongside the Xion Brainstorm from Volume 1. You can rest Choco for Xion's level swap, since Xion can rest another character for the cost. Then, you can follow it up with Choco's effect to get a bonus card. The new IMA level 1 is a pretty unassuming card, but there's a really cool interaction with this card and a level 0 Marine and level 0 Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean that card? What do you mean it's banned? Alright, so the level 1 IMA is in fact banned due to a convoluted interaction that allows you to get way more attacks than you're supposed to be able to. Thankfully, we have another IMA tip for you guys. Her new level 0 provides another source of level swap in order to utilize the Choco level 0 that we just looked at. Additionally, her on-attack effect lets you discard a card in order to trigger twice, essentially letting you convert 1 card from hand into 1 stock. It's typically very hard to convert hand into stock, so this is a really nice option if you find yourself in situations where you have way too much hand. Xion's new level 0 is a pretty good early game option. 3500 power makes her a powerful attacking force that's also quite hard to kill, especially when you account for her center runner ability. However, having center runner actually makes it preferable to run this Xion in decks that don't run the Aqua or Laplace level 0 profiles, which means that she's actually a poor fit for a Gen 2 deck. Instead, use her alongside level 0 profiles that don't rely on being in the center slot, such as the new Lamy. The new Korone level 0 has a pair of legacy effects that bolster strategies from Volume 1. She can salvage the Korone trial deck combo by sending herself to memory, and while she's in memory, she even turns your gamer events into counters, letting you use them on the opponent's turn. However, just because you can, doesn't mean you necessarily should. Try not to use gamer's events on the opponent's turn unless you know for certain that it'll create a beneficial result, such as when you're already out all of your climaxes. The last thing that you want to do is mill all of your climaxes on accident when your opponent is swinging at you for a bunch of damage. The new Okayu level 0 is a pretty good back row card, giving one of your characters 500 power and a clock removal effect. However, it's her other effect that we're looking at for this tip. When you play an event, you can send her from stage to stock, giving you a way to directly convert 1 card to 1 stock, just like the IMA level 0. However, you can get even more value out of this by using Okayu as an attacker, and then using the gamer's event on the opponent's turn, turned into a counter by the level 0 Korone in memory. This allows you to send Okayu to stock in situations where she would normally get reversed and sent to the waiting room anyway. For Fubuki, her new level 0 isn't the most competitive, but it's certainly fun and full of flavor. On play, you mill 1 card from the top of your deck, and if it's a climax, you get to search your deck for a character for free, and she gains the gold color trait for the turn. Otherwise, you don't get to search and she gains the red color trait, a reference to her misadventures farming for a shiny gold Magikarp. Combine this Fubuki with cards that give knowledge of the top card of the deck, such as Mio level 0 drop search, or Mio level 0 back row, so you're not just sitting there saying Akaina for 27 days straight. Speaking of the level 0 Mio, that's the exact card that we're about to look at. Just a quick disclaimer, we're going to be seeing this card a lot throughout this video, since it's one of the most powerful utility pieces in the entire set. The new Mio level 0 has on play and on death drop search ability, giving you tons of control over the contents of your hand. In addition, her second ability is also extremely powerful, letting you fix the top 2 cards of your deck. This ability can be used in many different ways. Leave non-climax cards on top of the deck in order to confirm clean triggers, or send them to the waiting room to try to hit more climaxes with a brainstorm effect. Moving on to Gen 3, Marine's new early play has to sacrifice a character for her on-play ability. Heal 1 damage, and then maybe add the top card of your deck to your hand if it's level 1 or higher. Missing this effect can sting quite a bit, but we can alleviate the pain with our good old friend Pekora. Just like many of the Gen 3 effects from Set 1, sacrificing the level 0 Pekora or the new level 2 Pekra is a great strategy, since they can return to the stage for free one time as long as they have the marker from their on-play effect. Speaking of the new level 2 Pekra, this card is actually a great fit for standby decks as well. Even though you can't get a marker if you bring her out via standby since she wasn't placed on stage from your hand, having access to a 1500 assist as early as level 1 can be extremely powerful. The new Flare has an early play condition that we don't see too often. You need a specific Noelle level 0 in your clock. The best way to secure this condition is by using the Noelle level 2 assist, who can swap the bottom card of your clock with a character from your waiting room. The Noelle even has a bond effect, allowing you to grab the Flare early play from your waiting room on play, giving you access to the entire package in one swift motion. As for Noelle herself, we have a cool new tool in the level 1 Climax Swapper. Unlike the several level 0 Climax Swappers that are already present in Hololive, this one sacrifices a character on your stage instead of paying one stock. Just like the Marine from before, sacrificing Pekra is a high value play, but another cool way to use this card is to sacrifice an Aqua or Laplace level 0 that survived the early game. Follow this up by using their On Death ability and get a ton of options in your hand to utilize at the level 1 game. The new Watame runner has a cool effect that supports the Gen 4 burn event from the Gen 4 trial deck. Normally to play that event you need to discard 3 cards, but Watame can count as 2 cards for this discard cost. If you want to run a deck with that event, you should definitely run this Watame, but more than one copy of the Watame doesn't actually make the event any cheaper to use. So try to keep the number of copies of the Watame in your deck low, probably like 2 copies at most. Luna's cards all have the unique theme that they are all treated as level 0 while on stage, since she's 0 years old. This new level 3 early play healer is no different. One really unique aspect about this card though is that it has 3 base soul, which is extremely rare. As such, this makes Luna a great fit for standby decks, since standby climaxes don't naturally give extra soul like 1k1 climaxes do. Toa's new level 0 is honestly a pretty overlooked card in my opinion. On attack, she can give one of your other characters 1500 power and hand encore until the end of the opponent's next turn. Use this to buff up important characters that you want to keep around, especially if they don't normally have an encore ability. This can be especially useful in standby decks. After you've attacked with Toa and buffed another character, try to trigger a standby climax to replace the Toa with a powerful high-level character. Speaking of standby, we have another great tool for standby decks. Pretty funny considering none of the standby climaxes are in Gen 4. The new Kanata level 2 has a field swapper effect, letting her switch places with another one of your characters at the start of your opponent's attack phase. When you use a standby climax to put a powerful card in your back row, you can use the Kanata to move it to the front row earlier than expected, forcing your opponent to attack into some pretty large level 3 bodies. For Gen 5, Polka's new level 0 is what we call an Amagi effect, since the first card that had this ability was on a card named Amagi. This effect lets you pay 1 when you play a climax to grab a character from the top 4 cards of your deck, letting you easily get advantage as well as deck speed. However, Polka's other effect also activates on climax placement, letting you bounce her back to your hand to check the top card of your deck, leave it there or send it to waiting room, and then give a 1500 buff to one of your characters. It's worth noting that these abilities can be activated in the order of your choosing, so if you want to dig for a specific card to add to your hand, you should bounce her back for the top check first and then look through the top 4 with the Amagi effect. If you want to try to get a clean first trigger instead, you should use the Amagi effect first and then the top check. Botan's new level 0 is a pretty sweet utility option for Gen 5. Many of the characters in Gen 5 require cards with different names in your memory. Botan's ability lets you swap out a card in memory for a different one from your waiting room, which allows you to send multiple of the same card to memory and then swap one of them out later to fulfill your conditions. Nene's level 3 from the first set is a pretty good card to bring out at level 2 via a standby climax. Her damage scry effect helps to lessen incoming damage, but requires taking damage in order for it to work in the first place. Therefore, the earlier you can play her, the better, since you have more room to take more damage. Thanks to her new level 2 changer from Vol.2, you can even bring out the level 3 as early as level 1, making her a card that you'll definitely want to add to your Gen 5 decks. Lammy is one of the new level 0 plussing profiles in Vol.2. While she can't get you 2 cards off one activation like Aqua or Laplace, she gives you additional deck speed and sends herself to memory. While memory is important for Gen 5, this also has applications in other decks. For cards that want a lower concentration of level 0s in the deck, such as Mel level 1, or a lower concentration of non-soul triggers, such as Gura level 3, this Lammy can be a great consideration for your level 0 line, since she effectively removes herself from your deck entirely. Moving on to Gen 6, aka holoX, the new Laplace finisher is a card that you must run in any holoX based deck, since you need to reveal her in your hand in order to use all of your resonance abilities. As such, it's extremely important to secure her in your hand as early as you possibly can. Try using the Chloe level 0 in order to secure the copies of the plus that you need for Resonate. Otherwise, you can search the level 0 Louis instead. Speaking of holoX resonance cards, the new Chloe level 1 combo is extremely powerful, getting you a card from your waiting room and potentially even netting you a bonus stock. When using her combo, you'll want to use cards that can verify the top card of the deck, such as the aforementioned Mio Drop Searcher, in order to know the correct attack order to secure that bonus stock. Despite not being a level 0 brainstorm, Iroha can still be very useful thanks to her Soul Trigger, which 1-0 characters don't normally have. This makes her a pretty good option to run in decks that use choice climaxes, since you can grab her from the waiting room or send her to stock upon triggering one of those climaxes. You can also consider her in holoEN based decks, which revolve around Soul Triggers. Koyori's a pretty good early play, but with a bit of an odd early play condition, requiring 2 copies of herself in your waiting room. This can be a bit hard to manage at times. However, if you put copies of her underneath your Louis level 0s as markers, you can send them to waiting room on command to enable her early play condition, even through a refresh. Speaking of Louis, here's another tip involving the same card. When you're not using Louis to marker copies of Koyori, there are 2 options for what cards you will want to marker. One option is to marker cards that you don't plan on using anymore, so they are no longer in your deck rotation. But another option is to marker a card that you do want to see later, put it underneath Louis as a marker, and then once you refresh, send the marker to waiting room and then try to salvage it back with an effect such as Chloe Climax combo or triggering a door climax. Now if you guys like soul triggers, we're going to be looking at a lot of those in the upcoming section, as it's a common theme among the Holo Myth characters. Starting with Gura, she is one of the standout cards of the set with her powerful finisher ability. To make the most use out of it, try to include characters and climaxes that have soul triggers whenever it's reasonably possible. The most popular climax to run alongside Gura is Standby, with many players using the Azuki combo alongside her. Use Standby to bring out Guras before going to level 3, which lets you save stock that you would otherwise have to use to put her into play. This makes it easy to go for the triple Gura Dream Turn and push a ton of damage at your opponent. However, Callie is another reasonable partner for Gura. While her choice climax doesn't have a soul trigger, she has one herself, and her climax combo fits with the theme of looking for soul triggers. It's important to know that you don't have to mill all 4 cards with her combo. You can mill any number up to 4, even 0. If you mill 0 triggers, or even if you mill 0 cards, you can always still salvage a level 0 character. Keeping with the theme of holoEN utilizing soul triggers, we have Ina level 0, which is a very powerful card, already having 2 really strong effects in the top check to rearrange and climax swap, as well as a soul trigger, which is almost never seen on level 0s. Her on-play ability that lets you rearrange the top 2 cards of your deck is always useful, but it has particular synergy when used alongside Gura at level 3. You can check the top 2 cards of your deck, and if you see a non-soul trigger card, you leave that on top and then attack with something other than the Gura in order to try to hit as many soul triggers on the mills later on. Another potential inclusion for a holoEN based deck is the 1/1 Kiara. She's a level assist, which typically you don't play super early into the game because your early game characters will be lower level, and don't benefit as much from that ability. However, she has great synergy with accelerate abilities such as the 1/0 Ina, since you can refund the stock that you used to play the Kiara. She also synergizes well with Gura level 3 for the same reason as the Ina level 0, letting you verify the top card of your deck to see if it's a trigger or not for your Gura. Finally, for Holo Myth, we have Watson Amelia. Her 2/1 is a powerful card in the Holo Myth deck, or just decks based around Gura in general. In the Standby Gura variation, you can bring out Ame at level 1 using a Standby Climax, and then use her Accelerate ability to start farming tons of stock for your Gura endgame. One tip for using the Ame is to clock characters that don't have Soul Trigger icons, so that you can send them to level and increase the Soul Trigger density for your Gura finisher. Despite not being in Holomyth herself, IRyS shares their synergy with Soul Triggers. Whenever you reveal a card with Soul Triggers on any of your character's attacks, you get to give something 1k power. Whenever you have IRyS on your board, you'll want to attack with your weaker lanes later, so that you have more chances to trigger Soul and give those weaker lanes a buff. Typically, you won't see IRyS in standby decks, where you typically attack with the weak lanes first, so that you can potentially standby over them later. Instead, use IRyS in decks that can have a more flexible attack order, such as the Kali version. Crony's free refresh effect is nice to have access to, but isn't necessary for every deck state. However, thanks to her shift ability, you can have easier access to this on the fly as long as she's in your clock to shift her out. To help with getting her into clock, you can use cards like Miko Clock Encore or some of the various level 0s that clock a card from your waiting room. It's more logical to use an on-death ability to accomplish this rather than something like an Accelerate, since getting Crony will usually be reactive rather than proactive. Bei's level 1 combo makes her unable to be reversed during the opponent's next turn, and also gives her the ability to choose her trigger from the top 2 cards of the deck. However, Bei staying around on your board can make it a bit awkward to pivot into future game plans where you don't need her anymore. For this reason, I recommend pairing her with game plans that can remove her from the board for some kind of benefit, such as the cards in Gen 3 that sacrifice other characters. In particular, Marian level 3 can be a great pairing for a deck running Bei. Mume is another new level 1 option introduced in Volume 2. With her Climax combo, she can add the top card of the deck to the hand if it's a Hololive character or event, and then lets you salvage one and discard one. Just like with the Chloe level 1 getting a bonus stock, you will want to pair up Mume with cards that let you look at the top cards of your deck before you start attacking, such as the Mio Drop Search or Ina Climax Swapper. Fauna combo is a bit of a difficult combo to utilize effectively, since you can only ever resolve one copy per turn. Because of this, it's typically recommended to not run too many copies of Fauna so you don't draw more than the one copy you need. That being said, if it's getting a bit too hard to find your one copy, consider using a card like the Fauna level 1 from the Premium Booster, which can summon a level 0 character straight out of your waiting room. Finally, we have holoID, starting with Gen 1. The Eophi level 1 Assist is a pretty strong card, giving power to your characters based on their level, and having the ability to boost one of your character's levels in order to give them additional power. However, one really cool interaction that you can do with this Eophi is utilizing her alongside the 3/2 IRyS promo. The IRyS can be early played if your opponent has a level 3 or higher character on stage, but the Eophi can not only buff your own character's levels, but she can actually increase an opponent's character's level as well. If your opponent has a level 2 character, increase its level to 3, and then play the IRyS in order to wipe your opponent's entire board using her on attack effect that gives all of your characters bonus power until the end of the turn. At the time of this recording, level 2 strategies are an extremely prominent part of the Weiss Schwarz metagame. With powerful climax combos such as Alice and Myrddon running around, you will want to try to have ways to combat this. The IRyS and Eophi combo that we just looked at is a great way to counter these strategies, but you will want to have other cards that can attack the other lanes as well. This is where the Muna level 1 comes in. This card gains a substantial amount of power when attacking level 2 characters, so when playing her alongside this IRyS to contest these level 2 boards, you can really give your opponent a hard time. Risu is a level 3 combo that can be brought out at level 2 via the effect of an Eophi level 0. However, bringing her out this way can be very taxing on your hand, since it costs 2 cards just to bring Risu onto the board, and she only gets you 1 card back in return with her Climax combo. In order to make up for this, it's really important to try to resolve Risu combo multiple turns in a row to recoup all of those lost resources. Triggering Risu's Pants Climax can make it easier to get the Climax back, but you should consider running an 8 Pants deck with a level 1 combo like Mume or Pekora for even easier recursion. Moving on to ID Gen 2, both of Reine's new cards are extremely powerful utility tools that can grab you specific cards from your waiting room. One interesting strategy that some players use is pairing level 0 Reine with either the new Marine level 1 or the Rushia level 1 from the first set. You play Reine, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a level 1 or higher card that you want to add to your hand, you can salvage the Marine or Rushia, and then play it, sacrificing the Rushia for their effect and adding that top card to your hand. Anya's level 2 is a fantastic card thanks to her pair of extremely strong effects. While she can add a door trigger climax from the deck directly to your hand, you can even use her outside of door decks just to use her as an uncounterable 12k attacker. Japanese lists of Hololive, which have banlist restrictions compared to their English counterparts, have even started to use Anya in standby Gura decks, which run standby and pants climaxes and no doors. And finally, we have Ollie. Ollie has a very unique climax combo which revives her from the dead at the start of your attack phase. One hilarious card to combo her with is the trial deck Hachima level 3, which blows up every card on the board except herself at the start of the attack phase. Normally, this would leave you with only one attacker, being the Hachima. However, you can follow up with all these climax combos to spawn yourself additional attackers and put a ton of pressure on your opponent after clearing their entire board. Whew, that was a lot of tips. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new, and if you aren't a Weiss Schwarz player and just stumbled upon this video through other Hololive content, be sure to check out Hololive and Weiss Schwarz and give it a try. It's a ton of fun to experiment with different decks, try to utilize your favorite VTubers, and play against your friends. Coming up soon on the channel will be our featured deck profile for Hololive Vol.2, Standby Gura, sure to be a prominent meta threat for the foreseeable future. Additionally, keep on the lookout for our gameplay block, where we will be featuring a ton of different builds for you guys to try out. Until then, this has been Randall, aka Shizukatz, on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. See ya!